Right, I'm back. Today is Tuesday. It's about to be Tuesday. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 12:11 a.m.
Alexa, what date is it today?
It's Sunday, January 2nd.
Alexa, what year are we in?
The current year is 2022.
Alright, so there you go. Just got my little cup of tea right now. Got my little cup of tea, and again, I'm promoting Janky candles there at Walmart. This is a pink sands fragrance. Really good, really good. Alright, here we go. YouTube channel, continuation of the reading of the book. A short history of medicine. Now we went through the terms and conditions. If you don't want to read the terms and conditions, again, this video is not for you because you're gonna start crying. You're gonna be like this. You're gonna need your little bottle after I read this to you. All right, here we go. Chapter 1: The beliefs and traditions of a short history on medicine. Here we go. What is a doctor? In ancient Egypt, healing was the prerogative of sorcerers. While in early Greece, doctors were considered itinerant curiosities, more likely to harm than help. By the 16th century, innovative doctors were practicing an electric mix of medicine, alchemy, astrology, herbalism, mineralogy, and psychotherapy and faith healing. While in the modern world, medicine has evolved to make it possible for doctors to operate on patients remotely from another continent. Today, there is a complex array of scanning and imaging options with which to view the inside of the body. But in ancient Egypt, such information would have been deemed utterly irrelevant. Examining the patient was unheard of at a time when illness was considered to be the work of the gods. Hippocrates, who practiced in ancient Greece, was considered by many to be the father of modern medicine. Found himself imprisoned for many years when he rejected the idea that illness was the whim of deities. Yet by the time he died, he had revolutionized the practice of medicine and established the basic foundations of the role of the physician. Many others contributed, of course, in Hotep of Egypt, Chakra in India, Galen in Rome, and Shang Shongjing of China to ancient times. Now, Islam's medieval golden age boasted El Rausi and the Ibn Sina, and the Renaissance had anonymous Andres Vesalius and the groundbreaking Paracelsus, who founded many of the principles of modern medicine. All these figures contributed to medicine, often in ways that challenged the conventional views of the time. Of course, there were many widely inaccurate theories, and some, to our eyes, outlandish remedies, from boiled newborn puppies to the ashes of a burned swallow to cure hirsutism. So popular was uh, bloodletting by leech that at one point doctors were actually known as quotation mark leeches, quotation mark period. And so established were Galen's theories on human anatomy that for centuries no one questioned the fact that his findings had been gathered by dissecting the bodies of dogs and monkeys rather than humans alongside the more spectacular medicines. However, were herbs and minerals that this day form the basis of tried and tested drug cures, and in among the quakes and charlatans were many diligent and painstaking innovators. Rigorous observation and detailed detective work have played a huge part in the development of medicine. Before English physician William Harvey published his momentous book on the heart and circulation in 1628, for example, he spent over 20 years dissecting and experimenting on the pulsing hearts of thousands of animals from more than 60 species. Building on concepts and evidence dating back to ancient times, Harvey also wove theory and practice into a scientifically sound, evidence based description of the circulatory system. Armed with this knowledge, physicians were able to make major improvements in the way they diagnosed and treated disease. There are, of course, famous instances where chance has also played an important role. Had the weather not been unseasonably cold when Scottish medical researcher Alexander Fleming left his messy laboratory to go on vacation, for example, he might not have discovered penicillin. That's a four-letter verb. Penicillin. With the last verb having four letters. L-L-I-N. Now, where were we? It says Alexander Fleming left his messy laboratory to go on vacation. For example, he might not have discovered penicillin, which has since prevented immeasurable suffering and saved countless lives. It took the stimulus of World War II, however, to fully realize the potential of this, the first antibiotic. War and conflict have given impetus to many branches of medicine, acting as a catalyst for innovation and learning. One of the earliest medical documents, the 3,600-old Smith Papyrus of ancient Egypt, describes treatment of wounds probably sustained on the battlefield. In ancient Rome, gladiators' injuries provided valuable medical insight at a time when human dissection was forbidden. In the 16th century, French army surgeon Ambroise Paré used innovative procedures, such as poultice and ligatures, that then filtered from the battlefield through to general surgery. Another French surgeon, Baron Dominique Jean Leray, pioneered the use of ambulances and trach in the 19th century. During the World War I, doctors noted that mustard gas affected mass multiplying cells in the body, which ultimately led to the development of anti-cancer, chemotherapy drugs. Medicine even benefited from the most deadly weapon of all, the atomic bomb. Its effects indirectly led to bone marrow transplants and one of medicine's newest areas of research, stem cell therapy. The journey made the science of medicine in an astonishing one. Today we take for granted our modern operating rooms with their rigorously germ-free environments and sterilizing equipment. But it is worth remembering that the notion of germs or transmitters of infection has existed only since the 19th century. It is also hard to imagine that there was a surpassing amount of surgery already taking place millennia ago. Holes were being drilled in patients' heads from prehistoric times through the 18th century, for example, and while in ancient Greece it was rare for the skin to be deliberately broken, surgeons in ancient Rome developed tools, equipment, and procedures not dissimilar to those in use today. However, modern surgery is also making use of robots, lasers, and mind-boggling technology. Just as we struggle to imagine prehistoric brain surgery, it is equally hard to imagine just how much has been achieved by modern medicine. It has waged war on age-old killers such as cholera, smallpox, and tuberculosis, decoded our DNA, mapped the human genome, and created the potential for nanotechnology and tissue engineering. The future ambition for medicine is phenomenal, but the challenges are not to be underestimated. Better nutrition, improved public health and hygiene, safety awareness, and health education have accompanied medicine in bringing immense strides in life quality and longevity over the past century. Prominent medical advances have included vaccinations, antibiotics, new drugs and medicines, safer surgery, improved care during pregnancy and childbirth, and recognition of health hazards such as uh, carcinogens, pollutants, occupational issues, and risk factors from heart disease, stroke, and other major killers. However, medicine is now big business, with economics preventing equality from keeping pace with technology, so that millions of people still have little, if any, access to health care. The episodes in this book have been selected to illustrate how medicine has been changed from the inspired, dedicated, but often isolated individuals of the past to today's specialist teams equipped with the latest technology. Anecdotal rather than encyclopedic, the book aims to give non technical insights into the intrinsically fascinating, occasionally horrifying, and always captivating subject of medicine. Medicine is as old as humankind. More than 50,000 years ago, Stone Age, cave dwelling humans first crushed and infused herbs for their curative properties. Traditional forms of medicine, few of which sadly are known to written history, evolved on all continents from the deserts and jungles of Africa to North American plains, South American rainforests, and balmy Pacific islands. Earliest records in West Asia, the Middle East, North Africa, China, and India document myriad diseases, healing plants, and surgical procedures. Ancient Egyptians had complex hierarchical methods for medicine integrated into their religious beliefs. Gods and spirits were in charge of mortal disease, and priest physicians. Imhotep is one of the first great names in medical history meditated with the supernatural realm to ease human suffering. The civilizations of Greece and Rome had their respective medical giants and Hippocrates and Galen. Hippocrates set standards for patient care and the physician's attitudes and philosophy that persist today. Galen wrote so extensively and authoritatively that his theories and practices attained quasi religious statuses and effectively stalled medical progress in Europe for 1,400 years. After the Roman Empire ended, the murky arts of alchemy, sorcery, and exorcism and miracle cures flourished in Western Europe. Ancient India and China also developed sophisticated medical systems with outstanding contributors. In India, in the centuries before the Hippocrates, Susruta and Shakara produced encyclopedic founding works for Ayurvedic medicine. Chinese physician Shang Zhongjing, a contemporary of Galen, also compiled works that described hundreds of diseases and prescribed thousands of remedies. Prehistoric medicine. Time 30,000 years ago. Approaching the depths of the last great ice age, place a clearing next to a rock cavern on the Iberian Peninsula, Western Europe. As dusk falls, a band of stocky, thick-set humans draped in rough, furry cloaks gathers around a bed of ferns, heathers, and moss. On the bed lies the oldest of the group, a male aged about 40 years. His eyes are closed as if he is asleep. His skin is pale and his breathing is weak. The onlookers murmur and chant with guttural sounds, occasionally raising their heads to gesture at the setting sun in the flickering firelight. One of the younger females raises her voice to a passionate owl, leaps up, and comes forward to press a bitter smelling paste into the old man's mouth. He stirs slowly, opens his eyes, and smiles. The scene, of course, is fictional, but sometimes like this may have happened in El Sidron, a well-studied archaeological site in northwest Spain. Here, hundreds of fossilized bones and teeth were found that once belonged to some 13 Neanderthals, or also known as Homo neanderthalensis, our sister species of human, which died 30,000 to 25,000 years ago. In 2012, scientists analyzed teeth from 5 of the Neanderthals using an advanced technique known as pyrolysis gas chromatography mass spectrometry. Which, by the way, if this claims to be the Neanderthals, which is 4 syllables, Neanderthals, or I think it's 3, Neon, Nean, one verb, syllables I meant to say. That's one syllable. Neander, D-E-R, second syllable, and then T-H-A-L-S being the third syllable. This could be pretty much recorded in the Book of Guinness. That this needs to be timeline if it wants to be self-evident to be true. Anyways, trapped in the hardened plague layer called calculus. On each tooth were microfossils and other remains of plants that their owners had eaten. Evidence of wood, smoke, and starchy cooked plants was found, and one individual had eaten bitter fasting plants, including yarrow and chamomile. These herbs have no real nutritional value, and their bitter taste must have been of pudding. So why were they eaten? One possibility is that the plants were used as natural medications. Yarrow has long been known as a traditional tonic, and estrogen and chamomile as a relaxant and anti-inflammatory. The evidence at El Sidron points to some of the earliest known human medicine: the prevention, identification, the treatment, and curing of illness and disease. Our understanding of prehistoric times depends on the study of preserved human remains, artifacts such as tools and ornaments, and natural objects like plant seeds and animal fossils. Cave paintings and rock art also helped. Several prehistoric images show human forms with the heart included, but there seems to be little other graphic evidence of anatomical awareness. Vital insights into prehistoric medicine also come from modern anthropology, gathering information from native cultures, especially in the Americas, Africa, Asia, and Australasia. Studies of these cultures suggest that prehistoric peoples had a mix of religious and spiritual beliefs about the causes of disease, typically attributing them to possession by evil spirits or revenge for sinful behavior. To effect healing, they combined mystical and supernatural actions, such as making offerings to the spirits, sacrifices to the gods, and pleas to lift a curse, with practical treatments such as poultices, ointments, and concoctions made from herbs, minerals, and animal body parts such as blood and powdered bones. In hunter-gatherer times before the advent of agriculture, and settlement, long distance organized trade was very limited, so all forms of medication came from the local environment. Anthropologists have also suggested that one member of a group would have held a special position in medical matters, a man variously referred to as a healer, a shaman, or medicine man, whose duties included being a priest, a soothsayer, an oracle, an advisor, or even a ruler. This shaman was believed to hold special powers, such as the ability to communicate with the gods and spirits, and was also proficient at preparing herbal potions and administering hands on treatments such as a message. Working back from modern anthropological knowledge and using preserved evidence such as bones and artifacts, the following treatments are thought to date back to prehistoric times. Fractured or broken bones were put back in their natural positions to heal. Clay or mud was plastered onto broken limbs and left to dry hard as a prehistoric version of a plaster cast. Splints made of wood, bone, or horn secured with plant vines and fibrous bark were bound to broken limbs. Wounds were dressed with poultices of healing herbs and covered with rudimentary bandage strips cut from animal hides. Stomach and digestive problems were eased by chewing orchid bulbs or drinking their extracts. Certain types of willow bark. The original source of acetylsalicylic acid, better known as aspirin, were chewed to relieve pain and reduce swelling. Which hazel and saps from various trees and plants were used to soothe burns and scalds, and some types of clay or soil were eaten. In practice known as geophagy, spelled Geophagy, to neutralize harmful substances in contaminated foods and provide minerals lacking in the diet. Now, dentistry was also practiced. Among the tens of thousands of objects found at the prehistoric site of Mehrgarth, spelled Mehrgarh, near Sibi in west central Pakistan, were 11 human teeth, all molars, and probably from 9 individuals, that had apparently been drilled using a device tipped with a sharp pointed flint. Researchers have reconstructed the device, essentially an arrow with a bow saw used to rotate it, and estimated that the holes were made in less than a minute. The condition of the teeth and the subsequent wear marks in the holes show that they were drilled while the owners were still alive, although oddly, only 4 of them show signs of decay. Drills were also used for trepanning, a radical form of surgery that involved breaching the skull to expose the layers of tissue covering the brain, and sometimes even the brain tissue itself. The earliest known trepanning procedures were performed using the cracked edges of flints, which were used as chippers or scrapers to remove the bone, either fragment by fragment, or to gouge a channel around a central area of bone that could then be lifted clear. More sophisticated techniques involved using how or bow saw rotary drills, larger ones than those employed at Mehrgarh. As for the purpose of trepanning, the oldest explanations center on the notion of releasing evil spirits from the patient, who would then keep the removed piece of bone at a talisman to prevent the spirits from returning. Modern interpretations suggest that these prehistoric patients may have been incapacitated by the unbearable pain of migraine or the involuntary seizures of epilepsy. Other possibilities include intense depression and severe bipolar disorder or internal bleeding causing intracranial pressure, compressing the brain tissue and causing life-threatening damage. As indicated by Hippocrates, tree or trepanning was also useful as a drastic first aid measure in the case of a head wound, again to help relieve intracranial pressure by releasing the blood from a hemorrhage beneath the skull. In 1991, a natural preserved, mummified, and frozen male human body was found in the European Alps, near the border between Austria and Italy. He became known as Otzi the Iceman and is now one of the most studied of all human bodies. Otzi was about 45 years old when he died, 5,300 years ago. He had sophisticated leather garments and shoes under a woven grass cloak and carried a knife, axe, bow, arrow, bark containers, and what might have been a simple prehistoric medical kit. Two of Otzi's possessions were thumb-sized lumps of a fungus or mold known as Piptoporus hetulinus birch polypore razor stroke or birch bracket fungus. Each lump had a hole and could be threaded onto a leather strip so that it could be secured, probably to clothing. The medicinal properties of this fungus feature in many folklore traditions and have been supported by scientific analysis. It is a laxative and eating it can bring on diarrhea. It also shows antibiotic action and contains substances that are poisonous to intestinal parasites such as whipworm. Trichura. It also happens that Otzi had whipworm as revealed by detailed medical examinations for his remains that show the presence of worm eggs in his large intestine. Perhaps even more intriguing were Otzi's tattoos. There were more than 50 of these scattered over his body on the left wrist, left calf, right knee, both ankles, right foot, and on both sides of his lower backbone. All arranged in groups of parallel lines. They were probably made by rubbing charcoal into incisions made in his skin. And being so widespread and mostly hidden by clothes and shoes, it is unlikely that they were for decoration. X-rays and CT scans show Otzi skeletons suffer from degenerative bone and joint conditions of the back, knees, and ankles. Some tattoos were positioned over these possibly painful areas. Perhaps they were some kind of symbolic therapy for relief. Another idea is that they were related to a form of acupuncture or acupressure therapy. Many of the lines correspond to the acupuncture lines known as channels or meridians in Chinese medicine. Otzi's full medical mystery is yet to be solved, but he does support the growing evidence that prehistoric medicine was more sophisticated than many modern experts have assumed. Now, again, this is a chapter which is speaking about the beliefs and traditions during the 1900s. Now, we're going to be moving into the first priest physicians of Egypt. as I will be continuing in the next video. Section 2, Chapter